We are live.
We are live.
That is correct.
Transparency and Merit, and several other incarnations. I'm not sure what you call this, but we're on a few platforms. Why don't you read those off?
Well, we are on the YouTube channel Transparency and Merit, Inflammatory Talk, and our X channels Walk Against the Woke and Mr. Midnight Movie. And we also have an X channel of Inflammatory Talk. Let me go, and I'm going to start this off with the Hays Code because the title of the show is called, I believe it's called, what did I call it? The ADL is the modern day Legion of Decency. So let's go here with.
So I remember the Hays Code. I used to think it was HAZE, the Hays Code, but is it? It's a HA.
No, yeah.
Oh,
you are correct. So let me play from the Hays Code. Let me play him his little speech. Here we go.
The code sets up high standards of performance for motion picture producers.
Ooh, turn that up.
Entertaining.
I can't.
Wholesome, interesting, and vital.
That is just a little tippet of the Hays Code. Now, the Hays Code started in the 30s, in the early 1930s, once talkies began, and because there really wasn't any, I believe there was kind of a censorship, but there really wasn't necessarily the same type of censorship that happened when talkies came out, because films became a little bit more popular, and
so here we got the White House, Casablanca.
Yes. So this is from Vox, and this is how this was the Catholic Church, how they censored the Golden Age. Here we go.
Casablanca, The Wizard of Oz, Citizen Kane. These are some of the most beloved films in the history of American cinema, but they all share something else in common. They were all censored by the Catholic Church. In fact, for decades, there's a good chance you didn't see anything in a Hollywood movie unless the Catholic Church wanted you to.
And I'll tell you right now, Casablanca has some of the greatest information. It takes it feels like the first half, like about an hour of it, is just administrative bullshit. But it is so filled with some interesting correlations, and not to mention the fact that there's a friendship pact between the United States and Morocco.
Yes.
And this is a very interesting element of, and the timing, of course, of Casablanca is so huge. It's such an important film, and I've only seen it once, and it was in parts, and I'd probably need to sit down and really just put the time in and fight through that first half of it, because it really is tough, and then you really get to the good stuff, and it's an epic tale.
Oh yeah, and it is an epic tale. Now, do you believe that it is a truthful tale, or do you think it's good fiction, Joey?
Oh, it is such an important film. But you know what? I'm going to reserve my full breakdown until I watch it again. I've been planning to, and I keep putting it off. But I'm going to give it a shot. Give it a night where I just really just do the whole rewind if I miss something sort of approach, and just really kind of get into it. It's filled with so much that and so much nonfiction that it's well worth the effort.
Now, I've been looking for the write up on here that I did with Grok, and geez, I can't find it. But you know, the ADL and the Hays Code both try to impose their moral code on the rest of us, and the thought is that that people cannot decipher good and bad information. Let's continue with this Vox mini documentary.
Lovers, and monsters. But not everybody was happy about that, most notably Catholics, some of whom were alarmed by what they viewed as the crumbling morality in motion pictures. Two devout Catholics, a publisher named Martin Quigley, and a Jesuit priest named Father Daniel Lord, that's his real name, decided to do something about it. In 1929, they wrote the Motion Picture Production Code, a set of proposed moral guidelines for movies. It prohibited such things as nudity, indecent...
Now, here's the thing. Both the ADL and the Legion of Decency both put out their code. The one thing about the Legion of Decency is their code seems to be far more transparent than the ADL's terms of service that they have enacted for social media.
And ridiculing religion, while requiring the promotion of Roman Catholic values where good triumphs over evil and immoral behavior is punished. There were also slightly less folksy provisions, like barring romance between different races, as well as white slavery. Yikes. When the Big Five studios, Warner Brothers, Paramount, MGM, Fox, and RKO, received the guidelines, they agreed to them. Why would Hollywood ever willingly sign on to censorship like this?
We always have to remember that movies had no First Amendment rights during this.
Now, I think, Joey, I really think we need to do a history of censorship from before America to during America, with regards to the written word, with regards to plays, and the like, because censorship has always been around, and it's always been the moral authoritarian that wants to censor. And they always say that some nut job is gonna, go haywire, and some crazy person's gonna run amok. Joey, what say you on this issue of censorship and moral authoritarians?
I mean, is there any hope left? They're at every corner, and they've got their headlights on, and they're pointing them right at you. I mean, it's just right out in the open. There's nothing you can really do about it. So, except maybe speak out about it. Maybe try to speak out with your wallet. Use your wallet.
Absolutely. So let's continue, Joey, on this thing here, and we will. So let us continue.
And that meant that any individual state or municipality, or by extension the federal government, could censor motion pictures.
This is Thomas Doherty, and these are his slippers.
There are real fears in Hollywood that Roosevelt's New Deal government, which is proliferating government agencies with great abandon, is going to create a federal censorship agency to censor American movies.
Studios chose to adopt it voluntarily, hoping that it would deter government interference. But then in 1930, the Great Depression hit. Following the economic downturn, movie attendance tanked, and studios scrambled to do whatever it took to sell more tickets. And what sells tickets? Sex, violence, and big-ass goblets of booze. So for a period of 4 years between 1930 to 1934, Hollywood studio films were pretty crazy.
That reminds me, I remember when I think it was about 9 or 10 years old, my father took me to see the original, I think the 1932 version of Scarface and the movie Hell's Angels. And I like them. I like both films, but I enjoyed Hell's Angels more because of the flight scene. But the ending scene was extremely homoerotic, and I think we'll deal with that a little bit like a later time when.
How did Scarface get his scar? What was that about?
You know what? I don't remember them ever mentioning
Huh?
both in the I believe it was 32 version. I don't know, the 33 or 32 version, or the 1984 version, how Scarface got his scar. But and I don't even, it seems really kind of tame today compared to other films. But as a 9-year-old kid, seeing, I mean, well, I think I'd already seen the Wild. No, had I seen the Wild Bunch already?
Brian, has it gotten it to the point where it's violent? It's almost like asking for an act of violence to go out and speak your mind. At this stage, I feel like it's gotten that bad, where like people are actually thought criming other people. They are shadow banning people, and they're just basically following people and trying to intimidate them. And it's just, it's kind of sad. I've seen it. It's not cool. What are they getting at? They've already got enough control of things. But it seems like the power structures have just gone haywire.
Yes. And I'm going to, there's a lot of post-World War II type of thinking nowadays. And before it was about just plain morality. Now it's kind of racial purity and the like. And this happened really after the Second World War. We have post-World War II thinking as far as I think wokeness is born out. A lot of it is born out of post-World War II thought.
Yeah.
And a lot of the censorship is really born out of post-World War II thinking.
Yeah. It's that the intimidators are out there, and people have to have no fear. It's not as easy as it sounds, I guess, because it really does take a level of understanding and knowledge and really wanting to do the right thing. I haven't in my life always done the right thing, but I've always striven to be, that to be open and truthful and honest. And, at some point it just it started to feel kind of dangerous to be open.
Yeah. I mean, and again, right now, it's not only dangerous to be open, it's just, it is dangerous to be open. Like, people will try to harm you if you speak your mind and what you believe to be true. Your truth is now considered offensive, and it's only one form of truth. One person's opinion can be expressed. And, what I believe it was the ADL, and then the Brian Stelter said freedom of reach does not mean I mean, freedom of speech does not mean freedom of reach. And yeah, I mean, the truth is, you can go in your closet and say anything, or in your bedroom. But I guess if it gets too large, that are we again? These people are acting as though they are afraid that adults cannot decipher good, and it's nonsense, and it's actually caused things to be worse. Anyway, let's continue with this a little bit here. Oh, that was great.
Roman Catholics especially get very upset by this. And in 1933 and early 1934, they begin organizing something called the Legion of Decency.
What sounds like the lamest superhero franchise ever actually released publications of all studio movies with their accompanying rating. A being morally unobjectionable, B being morally objectionable in part, and C being the dreaded condemned.
The Legion had something called the Legion Pledge, and you have 20 million Catholics at Mass and at Knights of Columbus meetings would stand up, raise their hand, and pledge on their immortal soul that they would not attend motion pictures that the church deemed unworthy and unholy.
You know what, Joe? We need to walk against the woke, and we need people to pledge that they will not spend their dollars with people who support groups that support groups like the ADL. If my voice isn't welcome, then my dollar shouldn't be welcome either. That should be our motto. I'm just, maybe I'm grasping at straws, but that's my belief.
To avoid a devastating boycott, Hollywood created the Production Code Administration to enforce the guidelines, and appointed devout Catholic Joseph Breen as its head. Here's Edward Herman playing him in The Aviator.
I can state categorically that I've never seen anything quite so unacceptable.
The Breen office would get a script from a studio, and he would go through them line by line to make sure that nothing was said or implied or visualized that defied the production code.
For instance, here's a couple of their notes on the Jimmy Stewart film, It's a Wonderful Life. Page 21. While it will be acceptable to indicate Gower as having recourse to drink because of his disturbing emotional problem, we must ask that he not be shown at any time offensively drunk, here or throughout the scenes. This is important. Page 37. The action of Harry slapping Annie on the fanny is unacceptable. Page 38. This reference to impotency is unacceptable.
The Breen office approved every aspect of the film, every image, every line of dialogue.
And again, at least the Legion of Decency was more open about their process. The ADL doesn't seem to be. Let's continue.
Ad mats, marketing, costumes, and it really makes him one of the most powerful men in Hollywood history.
And by extension, made his office one of the most influential in Hollywood. If you look in the credits of every Hollywood film from 1934 to 1954, you can see the PCA logo. Without it, your movie didn't stand a chance. The PCA got to say which movies the studios could make, and since the studios own many of the theaters in the country, most audiences only had access to production code films. You could almost call this arrangement a monopoly, and some people did. 9 people to be exact. U.S. vs. Paramount Pictures was a landmark antitrust court case in 1948, in which...
Now that was, and that was more to deal with the movie theaters, and that really took a blow to the studio system, by the way.
Supreme Court said this kind of monopoly was illegal and forced the studios to sell their theaters. Since the studios could no longer control what was shown, it opened up the floodgates for independent and European films, neither of which needed to abide by the code. The PCA quietly existed until 1967, when the Motion Picture Association of America took over, and American film switched over to a rating system.
So I always see the code as something that's not good or bad, but something that is inevitable, and it allowed them to create a lot of great art. I mean, if you look at the movies made under the production code, I mean, we're talking about what? Hundreds of marvelous, creative works of art that people still look at today. If you feel...
All right. And Angela says that censorship isn't real. What does she mean by that? What a bunch of hooey.
What kind of buffoonery is that, Angela?
It is real. Give me a break.
Yeah, come on. Get out of here.
All right. This is Arlington Catholic Herald. Let's take a look at this.
I was a film goer from childhood. I had 3 neighborhood theaters within a mile of each other when I grew up in Baltimore, and the feature changed every 2 or 3 days, and my family didn't travel much. And what did I have to do to see the world? So that's how I started going to the movies, and I never lost interest.
I guess this is the start. Same thing, the Legion of Decency. What's going on?
That certain things were deteriorating in the movies. One of them was the exploitation of sexual material, but there was also concern about the presentation of and crime stories. Beginning with Prohibition, gangsterism had become extremely widespread, extremely violent, the Al Capone sort of thing. And there was concern that the films were glorifying gangsters. So there was a sense that somebody needed to be doing something about cleaning up the movies. And rather than government censorship, it was felt that an organizational effort to exert basically economic influence on the content of film would be helpful. Now, in the background here, there had already been a production code established by the forerunner of the Motion Picture Association of America, but the code was really not being enforced. And so the hope was that if the Legion were present and were able to say, you're going to lose a significant portion of your patronage, that is, the Catholic population are going to obey their bishops and stay away from not only bad movies, but perhaps boycott theaters that show movies that violate the code, then you're going to take a hit at the box office.
That's kind of what the ADL has been doing, by the way. And the ADL is more interested in hate speech than they are in sexuality, because there's porn all over the internet. But so the Catholic Church said, "Hey, we'll not go to your things," and I think we need to battle again, because the internet belongs to everyone. It doesn't just belong to the ADL or the Color of Change or any of these other people.
And that indeed was exactly what happened, was that the bishops managed to show in a very short time that they had command of the faithful. The faithful would obey them and not go to certain movies, or not even go to a movie theater for 6 months that had shown a film that contravened the production code. As soon as that happened, then Hollywood sat up and took notice. And this brought on the enforcement of the production code, which had already existed. But now, in response to the pressure brought by the Legion, it began to be enforced in a serious way.
I grew up really with the Legion of Decency because on the first Sunday after the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, the priest would ask us all to stand and take the Legion of Decency pledge.
Your membership in the Legion consisted of your annual repetition of the oath, where you promised to avoid films that were condemned by the Legion and promised to support wholesome films, basically. Now, taking the oath was voluntary, but it was done at Mass, and the priest would have you stand up and raise your hand. So I presume that if you refused to do that, you would be somewhat conspicuous.
As a kid, I had subscribed to the Legion of Decency newsletter. It came by monthly on a big white sheet of paper with just the title of the film and the ratings. And for $3 a year, I would get this every 2 weeks.
From the time of the establishment of the Legion and the beginning of the enforcement of the code office, also known as the Hayes office, would be involved in production pretty much from the writing of the script on. and they would say, this violates the production code, that's not allowed, or you're going to have trouble getting that by the Legion. After that, an early cut of the film would be shown to the Legion, and they would indicate how they would classify it. And if there was fear that the film was going to be classified C for condemned, which meant that Catholics should stay away, then appropriate edits would be made to the film in order to get it to pass muster with the Legion. So in those days, they were looking at the film before it even came out and saying, these are the changes you have to make. And effectively, for at least the first 15 years of the Legion, virtually no Hollywood film that was condemned by the Legion made a profit. That was how much it would cut into box office receipts to have the C classification.
All right, Joey. So one of our projects, and I know we got a lot of projects, but one of the things I really want us to work on is, to a degree, the history of censorship, at least the history of censorship in America. The Legion of Decency had direct impact on film, and I don't know how much it had on television, but both have faced criticism. The Legion of Decency was sometimes viewed as out of touch with artistic freedom or overly moralistic. The ADL, while praised for combating hate, is criticized by some for overstepping, mislabeling criticism of Israel as anti-Semitism, are stifling free speech under the guise of fighting hate speech. The Legion of Decency transformed into the National Catholic Office for Motion Pictures, indicating a shift towards a more nuanced film criticism rather than condemnation. This reflects a broader societal change towards media consumption. The ADL has also evolved and expanded its scope from solely combating anti-Semitism to a broader issue of hate and extremism, reflecting changes in global politics. Again, I think this organization is really it's dangerous and it's myopic. But let's watch this and then we'll tie it down, Joey.
Anti-Defamation League report has found that severe harassment online has gone up 22% over the last 12 months. That's an increase from 18% to 20% in 2023. The ADL says that the harassment was dominated by an unprecedented surge in anti-Semitism on and offline. Anti-Defamation League CEO and National Director Jonathan Greenblatt joins us.
Joey, have you seen a more ugly man?
I've seen some ugly people, yeah.
But he is ugly. He needs yogurt in his face. Oh, what an ugly man.
With more of those results, hate and harassment up incredibly sharply. What's going on?
Yeah, we know that social media is a super spreader of anti-Semitism and bigotry of all forms. And I think what we're seeing now, Becky, is it's just exploded. Events in the Middle East, polarization here in America, and as you said, 18 to 22%, half of teenagers between 13 and 17 report having been harassed online. The numbers are staggering.
Yeah, we were just talking about how the Surgeon General is trying to get Congress to just allow them to put a warning on social media for parents saying it could be bad news.
There's truth to it. Like, I think we'll look back on giving our 13-year-olds phones like as if we were handing them packs of cigarettes. I mean, this is a dangerous thing to give to a kid who doesn't have the cognitive abilities, the emotional maturity to handle it.
It's not the phone, though. It's the social media.
It's the social media that's on every phone. This is the way that you're giving predators and bullies like 24/7 access to your kids. Now, at the end of the day, I mean, we've seen particularly minorities, LGBTQ, Muslims, and Jews being harassed serially on social media.
The harassment for Muslims even outstrips that for Jews.
It's like 47 some odd percent of people who identify as Muslim report having been harassed online. 40+% of Jewish people report changing their behaviors so they don't seem Jewish. We've seen this. I've heard many stories about Jewish people like changing their names in their Uber apps, their Lyft apps, so the drivers don't know that they're Jewish.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking off camera, but there was an incident here in New York last week, I think, where in a subway chain, people chanting, you have the opportunity to get off here if you're Jewish.
It's pretty much. They said all Zionists, any Zionists will be safe if they're not. Look, they use the term Zionist. What they really mean is Jewish. And we've seen, I mean, this is of concern to, I think, all your viewers. We've seen attacks on Zionist businesses across the country.
Yeah, I mean, that's an assumption that that Zionism. Joey, do you consider Zionism to be Jewish?
Sure. Yeah. What else would it be?
Yeah, you're right on that. Now,
I mean, it's not an ecumenical thing. It's definitely Jewish.
Yeah. And again, there is censorship even in talking about this issue. And Tucker Carlson had someone who studied Israel about 20 years before the creation, and the things that people said, both the Jewish population, the Arab population, and the British population. And also he was also talking about World War II and what was said beforehand, and some of the post World War II stuff that is out there has been, it seems like certain things have been forgotten over time, and the history has kind of been, I don't know if I want to say whitewashed, but given a certain narrative that wasn't, there was far more nuance with regards to the issue of World War II, Winston Churchill, Stalin, and the Mustache Man. And that seems to be taken out of the history books, I guess because it's too offensive for people to hear. And yeah, so again, Jonathan Greenblatt is, and that's a sad thing. If people have to not say who they are on their Uber apps and things like that, nobody should be harassed for what they believe or what they think. No one should be, definitely no one should be assaulted for the things they believe and the things, and for things that they say, in my opinion. Joey, do you have anything to say before I continue this?
I just feel like the sense of control is everywhere in the country. It's like spread pretty fast and heavy. I don't think there's really any one place to go run and hide anymore. It's just, we're kind of here to fight it a bit, to I don't know if fight it, but to maybe address it and try to work with it in some meaningful way.
Yeah,
which is what I always hope for. I'm not really looking to fight anybody, but
and you read the comments on here. The thing about the ADL is they're very unpopular,
right?
And they're an unpopular group that has a lot of. I mean, the difference between the ADL, in my opinion, and the Legion of Decency, the Legion of Decency was popular. The ADL is not. And it, I think to a degree, America is more of a Catholic and Christian nation, but also I think that the ADL is doing things which seem to be rather underhanded, and they're not very upfront with their censorship rules, and they're extremely arbitrary. And coming off of this pandemic, we've had a pandemic and we've had a riot in this country, and there's only a certain type of narrative that we are allowed, or that is allowed to be expressed openly. And both the Legion of Decency and the ADL are moral propagandists that want to put their view and their spin on things. And really, I think they're doing it without the America's consent and without the Western world's consent. Joey, what say you before I play this out?
Go ahead, play it out.
Now, there's no such thing as a Zionist business. It's just if the owners are Israeli or Jewish. And it's ugly. Starbucks have been, I used to work at Starbucks. I've heard from people inside the company. Hundreds of Starbucks across America have been vandalized, with like Free Gaza and the red triangles. The only connection Starbucks has to Israel is Howard Schultz, the founder,
is given money.
Jewish. That's it. They don't have any stores in Israel. So this is, again, attacks on companies, attacks on businesses because they seem Jewish.
Is that true that you have to be Jewish to be a Zionist?
Absolutely not.
No, I know, because I get
baloney.
People call me that constantly, so I think I can be a Zionist.
I wish you and I were on that train, Joe. We could have raised our hand when they said.
Right.
Because I don't think these people realize that not only are 90+% of American Jews, quote unquote, Zionists, scores and scores of.
Are 90% of American Jews Zionist? I don't know. Maybe they are.
Millions of Christians.
There's no way that's even remotely true.
I don't know. I know that there were two groups that are largely Zionists. One are evangelical Christians. And from my understanding, in the 80s, the anti-communists were also pro-Zionist. Churchill, I believe, once said that there are either Zionist Jews or Bolshevik Jews, and he prefers a Zionist Jew over a Bolshevik Jew. That's what he said. Anyway, let's continue.
People without faith and whatnot are also Zionists.
It seems like a hard concept that you've got one friendly Western democracy in the entire region, and it might be a good idea to support that democracy.
You have to understand these protesters are not real.
Did you just say something, Joey?
No, I did not.
I thought you said democracy. Okay.
Democracy.
Sort of like pro-Palestinian. They're anti-Western. They're not really pro-peace. They're anti-Israel. There's an anti-capitalist thread running through this that's louder and louder each and every day.
So what's to be done?
Well, I think on the cyber front, there are a few things. Again, I think what the Surgeon General is proposing, the K Street money not aside, it should happen. Parents need to understand.
It's just the bare minimum. The idea that we've never been able to do anything to protect kids online.
Look, I think
insane.
It's crazy. So there's a new piece of legislation that Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Don Bacon, a Democrat and Republican, proposed. It's called the Doxing Threat Assessment Act. To give federal authorities the ability to deal with some of the bad stuff happening on social media. That's a good thing. I think, secondly, the companies need to sort of broaden transparency access, standardize the way we can see that what they're doing, especially on the Gen AI stuff. That's a big black box that we need to solve. But then lastly, we've talked on the show before, Section 230. Make the companies liable when they publish libel. You guys are responsible here at CNBC if you slander or lie. The biggest, most profitable companies on the planet should have the same level of accountability.
Agree 100%. What about offline?
Look, offline, I think we've got to look at the masking laws. So this is not easy to do. Governor Hochul's talking about it. You need the right framework that protects free speech. But people concealing their identities to menace and threaten minorities.
Since they're only threatening minorities when they're wearing masks. Give me a break. You know how many thieves have gone wearing masks? That's another thing, Joey. Since people have been wearing masks, it is a thing for criminal degenerates to rob and steal. Joey, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, but why not? Why not just promote crime? Everybody, put on your mask in the morning.
Put on your mask. Why don't we put on a mask with a poo stain on the, just an old.
Yeah, and by the way, we won't arrest you if you walk out of a store with $800 or less worth of goods.
Yeah, and particularly if you're wearing your mask is an old underwear with a caca stain. All right, let's continue.
Crazy. Number one. Number two, we need consequences applied. We need Alvin Bragg in this city and DAs across the country to hold people accountable for the hate crimes that they're pushing.
The anti-masking laws were originally
the hate crimes that they're pushing. Who decides what a hate crime is? God, look at this guy.
Set up to go after the KKK.
That's right.
When they would wear hoods.
Because legislators understood in the 50s and the 60s that marching up down Main Street wearing a white hood meant you weren't just there to, use to do free expression. Walking down Main Street, considering your identity today, or being on a college campus and assaulting your classmates shouldn't be.
Yeah, they were assaulting their classmates when they were Trump supporters, but now when they're, they're assaulting his kind of people. It's kind of hypocrite. It's like, you know what? And this has been going on for a while, and that's what kind of pisses me off. You shouldn't assault anybody for any reason, whether they're a Trump supporter, whether they're Jewish, whether.
No, I think it's a massive.
But now it's a problem. You can't speak your mind on college campuses, Joey.
Yeah,
that's just the truth. And this guy is Johnny Come Lately, two-tongued Johnny Greenblatt. Here he goes.
You have a high degree of confidence Alvin Bragg is going to help you here?
DAs all over the country need to start doing the right thing.
Skirting my question.
I haven't talked to DA Bragg about it personally, but look, it's not a matter of the who, it's a matter of the what, and the what is consequences if you break the law.
Sometimes it's the who a little bit.
Yeah, the who matters too, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I think we need, and look, there's something else that can happen. The federal government needs to look at this. I think it's a violation of civil rights when you prevent people from, because of how they pray or where they're from enjoying the full access to society. So there's civil rights violations afoot that need to be considered.
Now, I just want to play.
You live with it.
I just want to. Dude is a constant victim. Greenblatt and his group, get him out of here. Of CNBC have standards. Get this guy out of here. I agree. The ADL does a lot of hate for people. And they're not popular on the left or on the right. And Joey, I don't want to play, but do you remember this song?
Let's get ready to wrap this. This is going to go on forever. I'm getting sick of it.
Do you remember this song?
I'm sick of these monsters. Okay, I'm sick of them trying to run everything. It's silly. It's just pure thuggery, and it's going to come to a head.
I'm going to play. Should I play the? Yeah, I just wrote a little song here called "Stand Tall."
Yes.
Pop inspirational, and I'll play us out with that. But yeah, it's absurd. And again, I think I can speak for both of us, Joey, that people can decipher for themselves what is good information and what is bad information. If somebody goes cuckoo because of bad information, that's one don't ruin it for the rest of us. Give me a break.
Yeah, no, and some people are just so in love with people are in love with very I am what I consider unimportant things. and they want to push that agenda on others, and it's just like, what are you gonna do, dude? Like electroshock therapize me? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You're gonna lock me into a chair and fry my brains? What are you gonna do?
Probably they want, you know what I mean? They want you to obey them. This is about obedience. Joey, this song is called Stand Tall.
Remember the days of old, the promises they made bold, trying to make the world bright, fighting for what is right. Legion stood with pride, never took an easy ride. For America they stood strong, righting every wrong. Stand tall, stand true, for the red, white, and blue. A beacon shining bright in the darkest night. They carry on a high, with valor they never shy, making choices so tough when the world had enough. Every voice was heard, every action their word.
All right, guys, like and subscribe, and maybe leave a comment down below. That might be cool as well. Thank you for listening.
Yes. Get involved. Join the conversation.